Today I'm going to show you how I made this 1 to 13 scale diorama of a poo that was left on Johnny Depp's bed. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you how it can be yours. I started by making the base of the diorama using some MDF and strips of pine. Then I laser cut some walnut veneer to create the parquet floor. This is a herringbone pattern, first introduced at Château de Fontainebleau in 1539. Historically, the blocks were adhered with hot bitumen, but special cold adhesive is used now. I know this because my grandfather was one of the first people in Ireland to install parquet floors. The smell of bitumen still reminds me of him. My uncle Willie runs the company now, and he does things differently. Johnny Depp was married to film star Amber Heard for a total of 15 months before she filed for divorce in 2016. Their collection of penthouses sold for over €12 million that year, which is how I was able to obtain these excellent images of their bedroom. Amber sought a temporary restraining order alleging domestic abuse by Johnny Depp. He denied the allegations, and the situation soon became a major media story, with both sides claiming abuse at the hands of the other. In 2018, Amber wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post about being a victim of abuse, and although she was careful not to name her abuser, the clues were definitely there.
My husband stumbled in the front door, stinking of rum again. His thick eyeliner streamed down his face. God damn it, this pirate costume is so bloody uncomfortable. Where's my wine? He kicked off his leather boots and put his feet up on the coffee table. Any messages from Tim Burton? He said he had a great idea for a Wizard of Oz film. And guess who he said should play the wizard? That's great news, I said, handing him a glass of wine. But he had already fallen asleep in a puddle of his own piss.
I've put a link to the full article below. I implore all of you to read it. To make the shelves, I drew the parts in Adobe Illustrator. Then I laser cut them out of acrylic. And I bonded the plastic with dichloromethane. And then I gave it all a lick of blue paint. Strange old colour to paint a bedroom. I was going to make a joke about it being like sleeping up a Smurf's arse. But if you've seen any of the Smurf films, you'd know that that's not accurate. After Amber's article was released, Johnny decided to sue her for defamation. And that's when this whole ordeal turned into a very nasty and very public affair. According to Depp's televised testimony, in 2016 he was informed by a housekeeper that feces had been left on the bed of their penthouse. Depp alleged that the human fecal matter had been left intentionally as an act of retaliation. Heard denied that she was responsible and argued that the poo may have come from one of the couple's small dogs who had eaten Johnny's weed when she was a puppy and had bowel problems as a result. So in an attempt to get to the truth of who did it, I pored over hours of courtroom coverage, media exposure and trial evidence. And that's when I learned about this. Turns out Johnny Depp was spending over $30,000 a month on wine. A quick Google search shows that the average bottle of wine in America costs $24.95. Divide 30,000 by that and you get 1,202, which if you divide by 30 days in a month gives you a total of 40 bottles of wine a day. This simply isn't possible. But it turns out that wine can be extremely expensive, like Chateau Cheval Blanc, which can sell for around $900 a bottle, or Petrus, a highly sought after Bordeaux that can fetch around $5,000 a piece. This seems fucking insane to me. Wine is just grapes and thyme and a pretentious French name. Now, the whole diorama thing wasn't really bringing in that much cash these days, so I thought I'd give winemaking a lash. Perhaps I could stumble on something delicious and sell it for extraordinary amounts. So I bought a rake of grapes and brought them back to my workshop. And before I knew it, I was making my own wine. Fuck. I left the wine to settle for a while, and I used the leftover pressings as fertiliser on the plants out in the garden. This proved to be a bad idea, but more on that later. It was time to make the rugs adorning the penthouse floor. I made this one by hand drawing the pattern, featuring some symbols that nod to Johnny's busy career in film. Then I laser cut the various sections on adhesive-backed styrene. I used an electrostatic flocking machine to create the different layers of miniature rug fibres. If these rugs could talk. I spent quite a long time getting these right, and by the time I finally did, my wine was ready for its first tasting. It wasn't very nice. It was horrible, in fact. It tasted like a drifter's dick. But I wasn't giving up that easily on my wine dreams. So I had a look at the Forbes 50 best vineyards in the world to see if there was anyone I might like to collaborate with. But they all looked really impressive. So I emailed every single one of them offering my unique palette and access to my 250,000 social media followers. But none of them were quick to respond. Never mind. Next I made the chaise longue. Those of you who have read my erotic novella, The Power of the Strength of the Heart, will know how much I love a good chaise longue. I cut the pieces from a mixture of styrene, Brendan board and balsa wood. And I was trying to work out what fabric they used for this particular piece, when I noticed that it is in fact unupholstered. Which just goes to show that even millionaire Hollywood people can live in absolute squalor. Speaking of absolute squalor, all the used grape mulch I put out in the garden attracted some rats. A good few rats, actually. The fuckers were everywhere. I got in touch with the good people at Treaty Pest Solutions, and they sent out a fella the next day. Something didn't seem right about this guy. It seems crazy to say, given his profession, but I think he might have been afraid of rats.
Yeah, big activity here, so...
Anyway, he put down a load of rat traps, and he put poison in the ceiling, and he promised to come back and check it in a few days, which I thought was a strange choice of words. Then he fucked off, like a rat up a drain pipe. I wanted to make these little brass nightstands out of brass, so I modelled up a jig to hold the rods while I soldered them in place. I wonder what Johnny kept in this nightstand. Could be a script to one of his favourite films, like Sweeney Todd, or Chocolat, or Fantastic Beasts and How to Fuck Them. I don't know. I wasn't there. To correctly identify this vintage record player, I asked some lads over on the Vintage Audio Forum. They offered some examples, such as a Hacker Centurion, or a Servo Sound aperiodic preamp, or even an old Soviet ferrograph, but they were all wrong. So I consulted an actual expert who told me it was a
piano holder.
Piano holder?
Yeah, like it holds, so the drawers in the bottom hold, you open them up with two hands, then you put tiny stuff in there, and then the top is standing mini trophies on and other things on.
That's what that is?
Yeah.
I was just about to start making this mid-century walnut dresser when I received an email from the 24th best winemaker in the world, D'Arenberg Vineyard in McLaren Vale, Australia. They said my email had caught their attention and that they would like to discuss things further. And that is how I came to know Chester Osborne.
Have you ever tried to get a parrot that's trapped, like pull it out? It's going to like take your finger off. They're so amazingly strong, those beaks. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let it die.
Chester is a 4th generation winemaker and owner of D'Arenberg Winery. He said he loved my idea of making a wine that captures the essence and sterility of porcelain toiletware and thought there would definitely be a market for that. And while I wasn't sure if Chester was winding me up or not, I tried my best to steer him away from the whole toilet thing, explaining that I wasn't actually making wine in my toilet, rather in the toilet area of my workshop.
See, this is all the labels.
Oh yeah. Great.
We can put a toilet little thing on it if you like.
Chester showed me around his cube, a 5-story structure complete with a restaurant, tasting room and a Salvador Dali exhibition. But what's most striking to me is the fact that Chester has populated the entire building with about 8 million wine-themed sculptures he's made himself, and come hell or high water, I was going to hear about every single one of them.
And if you get that right, then the fruit will ring out over the wood. And here he's being forced to try a Sauvignon Blanc. 4 wise monkeys, swinging Malaysian here. Eve must have been the first witch. You fill cow horns up with poo, spaghetti press, Pickwicky and Brognigney. We've got the feral fox. You can be sitting on the toilet and you've got to try and pocket the ball. Money spider, the vociferate dipsomaniac. And this one, I've forgotten what it is now. It happens. Maybe a bit of alcoholic amnesia.
I don't know the names of any of my toilets, so I wouldn't worry about it. Chester took me through the various styles of wine, identifying the different fragrances that contribute to a truly fantastic drink.
And it's like a kangaroo that got caught in the bumper bar. And you get out and the skin has been dragging along the bitumen and it's not quite on fire, but it's just starting to like maybe smoke a little bit. That smell is what the Mourvèdre adds to this wine.
Anyway, after about 15 glasses of wine, we took a short break, as Chester said he had a Zoom meeting with his shareholders. But he was actually out the back by the fermenting tanks with his brand manager, Christian. They were inspecting a delivery that some guy had just dropped off. I knew better than to ask him. My time at D'Arenberg was drawn to a close. Chester and I agreed on a particular blend that suited both our palates. So I left him and his team of experienced professionals to do what they do best. To extract, to press, infuse, and ferment a truly exquisite wine. On the flight home, I worked on the label for my wine. I decided to call it Chanson de la Raisin, or Song of the Grape, which I feel is pretentious enough to convince people to buy it. I sent the mock-up to Chester for his approval, and Chanson de la Raisin was good to go. I also used the flight home to work on this mid-century dresser, which I modelled up in Fusion 360. And thanks to the wonders of modern technology, I was able to send the file from the airplane to my 3D printer so it would be ready when I got home. But when I did get home, I was met with an unmerciful stench. Because, although the rat traps were utterly ineffective, the poison in the ceiling did its job well, and there were decomposing rat carcasses in my roof. I contacted your man from 3D Pest Solutions, but he was still sour over the review I left him on Google. Thankfully, the good people at District Pest Control said they could send a guy out in a few days. But in the meantime, I needed somewhere to make this fucking diorama. My colleagues at Aachchi Studio said I could film in their model making workshop. But as they were working on the yet-to-be-released Season 3 of Wednesday, I had to blur anything that might be a spoiler. Looking back on the footage from that day, I could see that this really wasn't usable. So the nearest people to me with a functioning shed are two lads called Citrus Fresh and 40 Hertz, not their real names. They agreed to let me use their studio while I was waiting for pest control. These lads helped me out a couple of years ago with an ill-fated project where I wanted to fuse rap with those condescending songs that young men write about how they're the only ones who can fix girls who actually just don't fancy them anymore. I thought it was a surefire way of boosting my profile, even going as far as spending $3,000 to get it played on local radio stations. But it didn't amount to much.
You're broken, girl.
I'm at the storm in the house of home in the
You're
mile
broken, girl.
Wrote a love song, but the Yorks are torn my mile load the porn. So let
I like the two lads, but they smoke way too many weed and have a tendency to both talk at the same time.
but like there's mad Japanese soul out there that's like
And while I appreciate their hospitality, they were absolutely wrecking my head.
No one sampled Michael Bublé.
I tried going back to the workshop, but it still smelled of death, so I was left with no other option.
Are you going to move these paintings?
Move them yourself!
This is textile artist Floreani Bala. Floreani and I have collaborated on a number of projects over the years, and she was kind enough to let me set up in a corner of her studio.
People!
Floreani possesses that special gift of being so messy that it's impossible to navigate the space around her, while also being unreasonably particular about where everything is. I told her she should tidy up once in a while, as it would definitely increase her output.
Oh my God, are you joking?
And I was happy to offer tips and techniques to help elevate her work. But she didn't seem too keen to take my advice. It only took a few hours for Floreani to really start annoying me, constantly complaining about the smell of solder, or the fact that I needed darkness for dynamic lighting. And she got all weird about me spraying a small bit of varnish. She also had some peculiar ideas about art, claiming that textiles was a perfectly good medium in which to get a message across. I commended her for believing that, but told her that textiles, while being very lovely, paled in comparison to sculpture as a means of making a political or social statement, and if she'd thought about it properly she might agree. Then she said some stuff about feminism, and I told her what I thought of that, and then she told me to fuck off back to my rat hole, and I thought for the sake of this project, and for the sake of our marriage, I should probably get out of her studio. Thankfully I didn't even care anyway, because the new rat catcher had just arrived. He got rid of the dead rats, fixed all the problems that the last fella neglected to address, and did it all for a reasonable price. So when the job was done, I was happy to leave a positive review for John at District Pest Control, while also clearing things up with the previous rat catcher. To make this very fancy looking bed, I made a 3D model of the frame and then I 3D printed it. Then I called into my mother-in-law's house because she had the fabric I needed.
Waddling down the corridor. Yeah, this is the velvet one.
It's the what?
Velvet one.
Perfect.
She wore blue velvet, bluer than velvet her eyes, warmer than May her tender sighs, lovers eyes, and I still can see blue velvet through my tears.
I made the mattress out of sheet metal because I wanted to use magnets instead of pins to hold the sheets in place while the fabric stiffener dried. I coated the magnets in silicone so they wouldn't stick or leave any marks. To make this lovely throw, I drew up the outline in Adobe Illustrator and laser cut it out of polyester. And then I hand painted the floral design. I fucking love flowers. Boop. I painted the throw with fabric stiffener. I scrunched it up and held it in place with more silicone magnets. And then I adjusted the fringing with the soldering iron. But the bed sheets were looking a bit Kevin Spacey, so I went at them with some white acrylic and an airbrush. How nice does that look, huh? Perfect for a long, comfortable shit. Instead of sculpting the Johnny Depp figure, I decided to make a 3D scan of a Johnny Depp lookalike that I found on the web. This meant flying to London to meet him.
There he is.
But I was surprised when he arrived in full Jack Sparrow costume.
Ah, fuck. Like, you look amazing like Jack Sparrow, but I was looking for Johnny Depp because I'm doing a scan. Did he not fill you in on any of the details, no?
Well, I know, I'm Captain Jack Sparrow.
I get that, yeah, no.
This was not what I had ordered, so I took the lookalike shopping for vintage clothes to try and pass him off as Johnny Depp.
Oh.
There must have been some line in his contract about not breaking character, because this fella did not let up the whole 2 hours I was with him.
It's the colour of the 7 seas, and I like that.
Anyway, by the time I'd selected enough clobber to pass him off as Johnny Depp, the double was looking for another 300 quid, as he said the gig had significantly changed and we were running over time. We had some words which were probably a bit harsh, and then the double fucked off, so I had to go at plan B.
That was gorgeous. One more?
The good people over at Visual Skies were happy to make a 3D scan of me in Johnny's clothes. These lads do all the scanning for the big Hollywood movies, and when I arrived here they offered me a beer, which I thought was pretty cool. They sent me the 3D file, but it had my head on it, which was no good to me, so I had to sculpt Johnny Depp. I did this by slapping some wet clay onto a stick, and I mushed it around until it looked like Johnny Depp. This defeated the purpose of going to England in the first place, which was frustrating. England colonised Ireland not long ago, and were still pretty annoyed about it. But instead of sitting around sulking, I feel the best thing to do is to go to England, trick a British person into marrying you, and then after a certain amount of time, you can legally convert them from British to Irish citizenship. That way we can increase our population while having one less limey bastard to fight in the statistically inevitable Hiberno-Britannic War of 2047.
Come out, you dragon tanks, come out and fight me like a man.
Take that, King Prince Charles. It's nice just watching the work without me talking over it, isn't it? It's relaxing. Actually, you know what? Here's a link to the video without all of the shenanigans. Just the art and the piano. My little treat for you. And there he is. Edward Alcoholic Hands. I took him into Odyssey Studios, where he was scanned by the boss man, Mark Maher. Then I asked Lauro Hurtado Miras to give him a bit of a scowl, before replacing my head with his. Then I sent it off to my printer. While little Johnny was 3D printing, it was time to tackle the books. Johnny and Amber are clearly avid readers. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make out any of the book titles, so I made up my own. If any of these titles appeal to you, then you can head over to my website, where, for the appropriate price of €49,999, I will turn the book of your choice into a single edition novella. One of a kind. Just for you. I suggest you promptly follow the link below, as the good titles are likely to get swept up quickly. Be sure to read the terms and conditions before purchasing. As you can see, the walls are covered in fine art, most of which is too blurry to make out. So I asked some of my patrons to recreate them, so that I could print them out all tiny. Shout out to Elise Phillips for reproducing this howling man. And Goblin Girl for this tasteful nude. Samantha M for the purple stick. Shanklin the painter for the thing behind the lamp. Sarah Morgan saw this as a wolfman ironing a duck. You're not wrong there, Sarah. Thank you. And Lydia Ray Black for her incredible rendition of what she has deduced to be Ariadne and the Minotaur. There's also this painting that I think looks a bit like Hosier. So I called over to Hosier's house and did a quick portrait of him. I wasn't very happy with how this turned out. I made the mistake of asking my actor friend Brian to film the session, and he kept distracting me by constantly pointing the camera at me and pitching song ideas at Hosier.
Point the camera that way, we'll use it, we'll still use
Fucking, like, the harmonies write themselves, like, it's far enough from taking me to the church to be not, you're not like doing it again, you know, it's like, it's brand new again.
Out of respect to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, I feel like these private photographs should remain private. So I took to social media and found an Irish model maker called Amber Hart and a British politician called Johnny Depp. We all agreed to meet in the medieval village of Athlone, where I was able to get the shots I needed. I was able to identify this painting as Dithyramb by the surrealist artist Lenore Finney. Lenore was born in Argentina in 1907, and although her work largely contributed to the surrealist movement, she was often overlooked in favour of male contemporaries such as Max Ernst, Paul Éluard, and Salvador Dali. In fact, it was Salvador Dali who said to Lenore that she was better than most, perhaps, but talent is in the balls. I wondered if this was true, so I asked Floreani if she thought that was why she wasn't as successful as me. She said making good art had nothing to do with having a fanny or a cock, and that society was always weaponising genital imagery and equating weakness with the female form. I said, if you love fannies so much, why don't you make art about a fanny and I'll make one about a cock, and we'll see which people think is better. So I put the diorama on pause for 11.5 months and took to work on a 1:2 hyper-realistic sculpture of Johnny Depp presenting himself, his ego manifesting as a bulbous genital hybrid from which plumes the source of his power. All the while Floreani worked away on her counterpiece. Anyway, after a year or so, we took our work down to the Hunt Museum in Limerick City, where we asked a select group of artists, critics and dignitaries to attend the showdown between Floreani and myself. It was also around this time that my wine had finally arrived from Australia, and while I wasn't exactly thrilled with the direction Chester took with the name and label, I was delighted to see everyone enjoying the unique flavours of my toilet wine. And you can enjoy it too by visiting www.toilet.wine or clicking the link in the description. Pour yourself a mega pint of toilet wine. It's fucking delicious. I reminded our audience that we were there to see whose art was capable of making a stronger statement about the weaponization of genitalia. And so, we presented our art.
1.
The results of the competition weren't as clear to me as they were to Floreani, or everyone else for that matter. So I decided it was time to put this whole Johnny Depp thing to bed. And to do that, all I had to do was paint little Johnny, with his wisps of raven hair and his larger-than-average hat. And after a few finishing touches, I could pop him into the diorama. I had a bit of trouble deciding on the scale of the poo. Should it be human-sized or Yorkshire Terrier-sized? And therein lies the problem with this diorama. One could go to great lengths to get to the truth. You could obtain architectural drawings of their apartment and use it to make a state-of-the-art forensic reconstruction, so you can line it up with a photograph of the actual poo to determine the scale. Then you could rifle through court documents to get a veterinary receipt and find a terrier the same size as Johnny's dog, follow it around all day, and measure its crap to see if they match. Or you could trawl through Amber's text messages from years previous to find the one where she describes the dog's history of shitting on Johnny Depp while he slept. But I don't think it would matter. The court of public opinion has already found her guilty. But I don't know. I think I smell a rat.
Baby bird is broken, and it's hard to find a heart when it's in two. And all we left unspoken is packed beneath your bed with all your shoes. And I tried to take it from you, but you told me you were stronger than you are. In the arms of someone else you've found your strength, but he hasn't seen your scars. Now I'm down on my knees, 'cause you started this war when you showed your heart how to close every door. You're broken, girl. You're broken, girl. Now I'm watching you smile, but I know it's not real, 'cause you need me to love you, so you know how to feel. You're a broken girl. You're broken
There's nothing like a bit of conflict to maintain the spice of marriage. But sometimes the flame of passion can turn into a house fire, and before you know it, you're taking blows at each other in front of a judge and in front of the world. And there are stories we want to believe and stories we don't. And we'll never truly know what happened in that bedroom in April 2016. But no matter what side of the aisle you fall on, you have to ask yourself the question: what kind of sick, disgusting, depraved person do you need to be for someone to take a shit on your bed? To find the location of the diorama, all you need to do is click on the link in the description and buy yourself a bottle of toilet wine. Follow the clues, find the poo, and dig up Johnny Depp. This is a limited edition, so snap it up fast. My last diorama sold for €50,000, so this might be worth your while. And if you'd like to watch the making of Rubber Johnny, then sign up to my Patreon, where you can see a full video of the process. This work would not exist without the beautiful dorks who support me with their cash. So give me a few bucks and I'll love you forever. See you next time on Bobby Fingers.
that with his tentacles over there. You should meet Davy Jones, mate. Terrible.